Hi, I'm Charl from Pangolin Photo Safaris here in Chobe National Park, and this morning I'm on the Chobe River, and the area where we are is on the rapids from the Chobe River, and this is a beautiful area for the birds nesting. The nesting area is where the birds love to breed. So this morning we took a couple of nice photos, and I've realized that I use quite a few custom function buttons on my camera. And I thought, why not making a video in explaining you why this is important and how it makes a difference for me as well as a wildlife photographer, and I will show you as well how to set them up. Although I'm a Canon shooter, you can also customize other cameras, doesn't matter what model it is, so let's talk about it. Okay, so the first one I would like to discuss with you is the focusing, how I focus. I'm using back button focus. So most cameras on default will be front button focus right here. So I did disable mine and I've enabled my focusing on my back button on the AF on mode. But not just the one, right next to this button there's a star button which is auto exposure lock. I don't use it, so I've also customized that button with it. So the reason why I've set up two buttons in the back of my camera for focusing is for one button I will set up for single point focusing, and this helped me to be precise. I can use a single focus to focus easily on the eye if I want to, or to move it where I want it in my frame. But sometimes in bird photography can be very tricky, a single point focusing. Birds maybe just too small or it's flying too fast, and that can be tricky. And this is where I like to have an expanded focus area. And this is where I did set up my star button for expanded focus system. So that will help me then to have a bigger area where I can do my focusing. So this is very quickly then, so instead of using multiple buttons, I can just flip my thumb from an AF on, which is on a single focusing, just to the right side, and then have an expanded area. So if you want to set up your camera like this, I will show you quickly how to do it. You can go into your menu, you'll find your custom control. If you move your camera down to AF on, you'll press set to go inside, and then you will see there's a lot of different functions what you can use there. The first one is AF, and that you will select then, and your camera will set the AF on for autofocusing. With that, you have to disable your front shutter button, so you can only take pictures with the front shutter button and not also focus. So you're gonna have to go into that one as well, and then you need to switch off metering and AF start and go only to metering, so it doesn't focus while you use your back button. This you do then the same with the star button next to it. You will click on that as well, and then you will have again all the different functions. You click on AF, press the info in, you will see there's different selections again. You go down, all the way down, and then you have an AF area selection mode, and then you can choose which AF area you prefer. I like the one with a single point and the 4 helpers, but there's different ones that you can select if you feel so. Okay, so the second button I would like to talk to you about is the review button or your playback button. So most cameras default setting is that your review button is here on the back of your camera, and that's a blue playback button. So me shooting with big lenses, after I'm shooting I always have to bring down my camera to look at my photos, and this takes time. So what I've done is I've set my camera on a different button, which is the multifunction button number 2, and this is here right in front of my camera. So after I'm shooting my photos, I can still hold my camera, my lens in my one hand, and by pressing my finger that's already here, I see already then quickly my images on the back of my screen. So to set this up, you will go into your custom control menu. You'll scroll your wheel all the way down to multifunction. I've selected the second one. You'll go inside, and then you will go through them until you see your playback, and then you press select. Another thing that I need to be quick with as a wildlife photographer is changing or adjusting your exposure. Me as a wildlife photographer, I prefer to shooting manual with auto ISO. If you'd like to know more about manual with auto ISO, please look at the link up here. Sabina have a really great video of explaining why we prefer shooting this way. So for me, shooting as manual with auto ISO means I'm setting my aperture and my shutter speed manually. I need two dedicated buttons for this, so both my main dials is occupied. So for me to quickly adjust my exposure compensation, I need to dedicate another button for me. So I've set my set button as exposure compensation. So with this method, it's so easy. I don't even have to take my eye off my viewfinder now. I can just simply hold in the set button, together rotate my top wheel, and then I can see how I change my exposure on my exposure meter. Okay, so let me show you how to set this up. You will go into your custom control menu. You'll turn the wheel down until you see there's a setting set. Click on that, and then you will scroll down until you see like a plus and a minus with an arrow down. That is your exposure compensation, and then select it. So I have another one for you, a bonus one. Standing here by the birds, see them flying around, and something came to mind. Something I really like to do as well is panning. So if you'd like to know more about panning, I have another video. You can look at the link up here, and I will describe and explain you what shutter speeds and how panning works. So the reason why I'm setting up this button for me is that I can very quickly from a fast shutter speed, just by pressing another button, go to a very slow shutter speed. So I can photograph a bird flying past me. I need that fast shutter speed. I go, you can hear it's very fast, and just by changing my finger, you can hear them very slow. And if I want to go back to fast shutter speed, it can go fast, or if I want to go back to slow again, you can see very quickly without me even moving my eye from the viewfinder. Very quickly I can change this. This is unfortunately only for the 1DX series. So if you have a 1DX, maybe you should give this a try. Okay, first, so let's adjust our camera settings to a panning technique. Although I prefer shooting manual with auto ISO, if you're maybe new to this and haven't tried it before, I suggest maybe try shutter priority or put your camera on TV with auto ISO. That's a lot easier. Okay, so let's set your camera to 50th of a second. I think for a starting point, 50th of a second, your camera to auto ISO, and then your camera will then adjust your aperture. So when you've set this, then we need to register the setting into your custom function. Go into your menu, and then looking under your custom shooting mode, if you go in there, register your settings. I've selected custom shooting mode 1. So now the next step is that you go into your custom control menu again, and then you go until you see the multifunction button, until you see the C for custom function shooting. Select C, and then it should be registered under that button. So simply just by pressing the multifunction button now, I enter my panning settings, and although that my panning settings was now entered or select by 50th of a second, you can easily still change or override that setting depending on the subject that you photograph. Plus, you can tell your camera to keep the updated settings, or you can set it that it goes back to the default setting. In this case it was 50th of a second, so it can go back to the 50th of a second after a few seconds. This was my 4 favorite custom function buttons that I use pretty much all the time. So I hope that this can also help you to improve your photography as it improved mine. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, please leave it in the comments down below. Always appreciate the thumbs up. If you haven't registered to our YouTube channel, please do, and see you soon. Bye.